Good morning. This is April the 24th, Wednesday 2024, and we are in BBIS second semester compulsory English class, where in the previous class I tried to recapture the whole story, though I could not go line by line or section by section. I tried to tell you the story, plot in a sense, completed. So let me again deal with this story on the basis of these things. There are certain elements that you should look for when you analyze the story. So, for example, there are 5 elements, right? Although they have ordered them this way, but I will say that you should first go for setting or exposition, then you should go for other things, and plot comes later on. So let me talk about exposition. Exposition is how the story begins. So you will see that the story dawn begins early morning, one September morning, 1962, right? And it's calm, quite peaceful, and the main protagonist or the narrator leaves his home for morning walk with his running shoes. That's how the story starts. He has come back home after 7 years. Somebody said he has come back home from world tour. I'm not sure. You decide. Then characters. There are a lot of characters. You will see the story begins with the narrator himself, Phil Knight, and then slightly later we meet his teacher. Then he talks about his father. Then he talks about his mother. Then he talks about his twin sisters. Then he talks about his grandmother, grandfather. Then he talks about his classmate with whom he goes around the world. Then he talks about a lot of other people. For example, people he met in Japan. He talks about other CEOs of companies, etc. Then background. Background is when the story starts. So suppose the story starts here. Then you will see that stories do not always begin from beginning. Stories do not always begin from beginning. Many times stories begin from the middle. They begin from right in the middle of the action. And when the story opens, action is going on. And then something has already happened which is not given to you in the story. And you have to find out. It may be given later on. So here you will see this is 1962. Actually, this is not 1962. He is remembering 1962. This is the point, or let me clear it. When the story starts, actually, I guess so, he is in his 70s. Because he says, I was 24, and he says, I'm remembering after 50 years. So he is in his mid-70s, and the story starts here. And staying here, he goes 50 years back to 1960s. And he remembers this point. So we see this story here. We see this story here. But actually the story is here. So what do you see? The present, the now in the story is here. In the story, the now is here, right? But as you read, the now is here also. Because this is where the story begins. Actually, this now is then. And from this now, from the present, he is remembering this past. That's why we call this memoir. Right? So whatever happened back in 60s, that's a background. And he is here in his 70s and he is recalling everything. He is telling his life story. By the time he starts telling his story, he has already become a highly successful person. He has the company, right? Okay. Then setting. We said clearly last time that you look for 3 things. time, right? So we know that this story begins at dawn, early morning, pinpoint, in the month of September in 1962. Time. Now, time has multiple meanings. One, clock time. When you say what is the time in a story, so you mean clock time. What was the year when the story opens? What was the decade? What was the era? What was the month and day? What was the time? Early morning, night, day, etc. One meaning. Another time means how was the environment? Was it summer? Was it winter? Was it rainy season? Right? Was it a war time? That meaning of time. Now place, there is a bigger world. Now every story has a world. Remember, every story writer creates his imagined world. He imagines a country, he imagines a city, he imagines a town, he imagines places. For example, if you read Thomas Hardy's novels, I told last time also. Thomas Hardy, a very famous Victorian novelist whose novels you should read, you would enjoy. He creates an imagined area called Sussex in England. There is no place called Sussex in reality. But if you read Thomas Hardy's novels, his characters, his stories take place in those cities called Sussex, around Sussex. For example, he imagines a place, Casterbridge, in the novel The Mayor of Casterbridge, very famous novel. There is no place in reality called Casterbridge. Hardy imagines Casterbridge. There is a wonderful novel girls should read that will change your life, Tess of D'Urberville. A wonderful novel. Tess of D'Urberville. Tess is the name of the girl. Tess of D'Urberville. It's a wonderful story of a young girl like you who has very difficult life and struggles. So I said, every writer creates a world. And we readers get into the world. Now, as we get into the world, we see places in the world, cities, towns. So here we have Oregon. Because this is a memoir, a novel based on real facts. So we'll see that in the novel there is a place called Oregon, and if you Google, there's a real place called Oregon. In the novel there is a place called Portland, and if you Google, there's a real place called Portland. So almost all the place names in this novel have real existence. You can Google them. Right? That's why this is a memoir. Memoir is part imagination and part fact. Part imagination and part fact. Okay. So as you get into the world, look for places and then look for atmosphere or the general feeling you get. When I arrive at this college early morning, the kind of feeling I have is calm, quiet, serene. No pollution, no disturbance, no noise. Slightly away from the highway. If this college was in the mid-town, somewhere in Bhaneswar, the atmosphere will be noisy, disturbing. You will see lots of honking. You will see lots of disturbance, noise. At my home early morning, we have a lot of. My home is at a slightly ascending height, and then every time a bike passes, I can easily feel the throttle engine in my ears in my room. Atmosphere. Another atmosphere is every time you, for example, sometimes you come to a place, you go to your friend's house for the first time, then you have a sort of feeling. You might feel dirty, smell, stinking. You might feel flowers. You might see that he has garden. Or you might see that he has a lot of noise. So what kind of feeling do you get in a story? That is called atmosphere. And it is not easy to know the atmosphere without reading the whole story. You cannot know. You cannot know the atmosphere unless you know the whole story. You cannot know a place unless you travel it around, right? Okay. So in this story, when you talk about atmosphere, let me draw a picture. This is the head, and this is the face. Okay, so I will say this is a memoir. So memoir is about memory. So memoir is remembered. Characters remember. So you will see that he is actually running early morning, and while running he reflects, he remembers, he thinks. So all this happens in the mind. So most of the activities in this story take place in the mind of the speaker, the narrator. He says, I went to Japan. So he is not going when he is saying. Once upon a time he had gone. When we are listening to him, he is telling us his memory. He is recalling. The hero is telling us his life story. He says, I did this, I did that. It's not that you are seeing him doing that. He has done it and he is reporting you. So the hero is reporting what he has done. So you will see most of the actions take place in the mind. So what do you see? Outside in the world, it's calm and quiet. As he says, I woke up early morning, there was not a single bird, no animal, no car, no one. It's peaceful. Outside, early morning, no noise. But inside, a lot of things are going on. Inside, a lot of things are going on. So inside is a lot of action. Outside is no action. Right? Then, okay, now, when you talk about plot, always draw like this, for example. So, in non-verbal communication, in sign language, for example, if you draw a horizontal line like this, it means things are normal. So, this is normal situation. Almost 100, no, I won't say 100, almost 99% novels begin with a normal situation. When the story opens, the world of the story is fine. Everything is ideal. So as the story opens, you see a young man, he is putting on his shoes, running shoes, early morning. He does not want to disturb his family members, so he quietly slips out of the back door. He doesn't want to disturb other people. They may be sleeping. And he comes to the road. Very normal opening. Then, you will see that at one point, somebody will do something. And this something is like there is a pond, and you throw a stone in the middle of the pond. And when you throw a stone in the middle of the pond, what happens? It disturbs the peace of the water. And then you will see what you call concentric, I don't know the English word for that. You will see concentric waves created. Right? Ripples are created. Ripples are created. The stone creates ripples. So for example here, if you see right in the first page, where is the first action that brings other actions? For example, paragraph 2, he says, here is a question. Why is it always hard to get started? Why is it always hard to get started? This is the first question he asks. If you are a good reader, if you are trained in literary reading, if you have grown up reading novels in your life by now, you know how to read. Reading is a very important task. Reading is a very intelligent activity one does. And your capacity to read shows how intelligent you are. If you don't know how to read, you are not intelligent. Right? So, and reading makes you more intelligent. Every time you finish one novel, I bet your level of intelligence has gone up. Every time you finish reading a novel and pick up next novel, your level of intelligence goes up. The best way to sharpen the mind is reading. And what to read? The best kind of writing to read in the world is novels. Because novels are written by one of the most intelligent and creative minds of the world. The writers who write novels, they are the most creative and intelligent people. Okay? Don't think they are normal people. Not everybody writes a novel. I don't write a story even. So I'm not intelligent. Right? James Joyce, have you heard? James Joyce. Read his novels. He wrote one novel, Finnegan's Wake. And he said, I wrote this novel for the critics. Now they will be engaged for 200 years in this novel and they will be busy. I will do my work. Finnegan's Wake. Right? Leave that. So I was saying, he asked a question. Right? Now, what is plot? Plot is things are going on normally and then there occurs a conflict. Plot is about conflict. If a story has no conflict, it's not a story. Best stories have best conflicts. What makes a story great? Great conflict. Now what is conflict? For example, here you see the narrator. Looks like a girl's face. Leave it. Okay, you see the narrator and he's asking question. Why is it always hard to get started? So you see the self, the person. And when you are alone and when you talk to yourself, there can be a conflict between you and yourself. Conflict between you and yourself. She has just fallen in love and she has to decide, should she go on with it or should she ditch it? And early morning she starts thinking, what should I do? To be or not to be? To go ahead or not to go ahead? So she has conflict with herself. She has conflict with herself, right? Or she early morning she dates, she went dating. She in the park under a tree. And now they start quarreling she start quarreling with the boyfriend. She has a very strong debate, discussion, quarrel. And she ends up saying, no, we break. So now conflict between herself and another, self and other. Now second example is self and other. Self, the girl, other, the boy. Here, self also the girl and self also the girl, two selves. Now in this class, now to have conflict, you must have two elements. There can never be conflict with a single element. There can be no conflict. Even if you are alone, you create your own self. In Bollywood movies, sometimes you see the hero walks like this. क्या करूं मैं? उसको मार दूं या छोड़ दूं? नहीं, उसको छोड़ दो. मारना अच्छी बात नहीं है. Especially if you watch old Bollywood movie. Have you seen? With old technology. They didn't have technology that time. So what they did, the same hero will walk this side with one dialogue and other side with another dialogue. And you will see the conflict going on in his mind. What do we call dialogue? Why not monologue? Two. When two people talk. Sometimes your own self becomes two. Your own self becomes two. Right? Now, the moment he asks this question, the conflict begins. The conflict begins. And what is this conflict? This conflict is how to achieve success in life. Because if you go down, slightly down, he comes to the trail road, and then on page number 2, bottom, he says that, like all my friends, I wanted to be successful. Now, draw a higher line, vertically. Because if you want to show conflict, your line should always go upward. That is called a rising action. Never draw a line like this. If your line goes down, this is called falling action. What is a falling action? Falling action is that action which brings silence, peace in a story. And falling actions often happen toward the end of the story. In movies, after interval, we have falling action. Your interval begins right in the middle of the action where things are very dangerous, right? And after interval, you see things are being sorted out. By the time the movie ends, the heroine garlands the hero, and Anupam Kher claps, and their married movie is finished. Old world movie, old one, not new one, because I'm not watching movies these days, so I don't know. So don't draw a line like this. Rising action means always upward arrow. Now, when you draw an upward arrow, you are saying that things are becoming difficult in the story. Things are becoming difficult. And see, when in a story things become difficult, then you like reading it. If in a story things do not become difficult, you don't read it. It's human nature. It's human nature. Now, as you move one step ahead and things become difficult, then you will see that the next step is called complication. And complication means things become more difficult. For example, in this story, while running, he remembers about his high school assignment. He remembers about his high school trophies achievement, blue ribbon. He remembers about his high school term paper he wrote for his teacher. He remembers how his classmates did not care about his paper. He remembers how while he was presenting, nobody took care of him. Nobody paid attention. He remembers how his teacher gave him A grade. And he says that my term paper had one crazy idea. He says that in my term paper, I had written a crazy idea. What was the crazy idea? The crazy idea was, in his high school term paper, he wrote that he wants to establish a world famous shoe company. And he wrote that for that he will go around the world. He wrote that he will go to Japan. He wrote that he will visit Onitsuka Shoe Company. He wrote that he will meet Onitsuka himself. He wrote that he will pitch his ideas to the company and he will learn from them and start the shoe company. He wrote this plan right in high school. And we are in BBIS. So what's our plan of life? Right? We are reading about somebody who in high school dreams of opening a shoe company. And then he says, that's my dream. And I'm chasing my dream. And I will not stop until I achieve my dream, come what may. I will not stop until I get my dream, come what may. Now you will see that. As you move ahead, let's say for example, here, let's say he leaves home. He comes to Honolulu, Hawaii. Has no job, has no money. So he has to pick up a job. He picks up the job of selling encyclopedia. And because it doesn't look appealing, so everybody goes, please buy it. Nobody buys his book. They look at him, hey kid, and they discard him. He feels very bad, very sad, very dejected, disappointed. Then he says, no, this won't help me achieve my aim in life. I must forget my dream. Then what does he do? He says his friend, hey, let's not stay here. Let's move ahead. Let's go to Japan. And his friend said, no, I've just fallen in love with that girl. Don't you see her at the bar? The girl with the black, brown legs and the black eyes and black hair. I will stay with her. His friend doesn't agree to go to Japan with him. He says, no, okay, you stay then. And then he leaves his friend, and now further complication. Right here. Goes to Japan. Right? Then, right here, meets Onizuka. Right here, gives order for $50 for tiger shoes. Right here, comes back home because now things will sort out. That's my design. You can design your own way. I decide that this is the most highest action. You decide what is highest action. As a reader, you have to decide which action is the climax. But understand that when you talk about plot, this is the picture. Normal, rising action, falling action, normal. A plot has 3 stages. Normal, conflict, complication, and this called crisis. Crisis is the peak of action in a story, when the most horrible things happen, or when the happiest things happen, when the deadliest things happen. That is called crisis. Nothing is more difficult than crisis. You say, I'm in crisis, right? And after crisis, what happens? You see reversal. What is reversal? Reversal means situations start changing. After crisis, things start sorting out. They change. They become positive, and you have solutions now. And then you move ahead, and again you achieve normal. All your problems are solved. And the story comes to an end. A normal pattern for a story. So, as you can see here, rising action, conflict, right? You read it. Opposition, incidents. I won't explain these things. I've explained you quickly. So I told you there is internal conflict, as I told you earlier. The narrator himself talks to himself, struggle within oneself. This is the kind of conflict we have in this story. This story, Dawn, shows internal conflict. Struggle within one's self. Should I do this? Should I do that? Most of you have this conflict. Then external, struggle with force outside oneself. Okay, here you have one example. Narrator and father. He wants to tell his father, and he knows that he won't agree easily. Look, his grandmother says, Japs! When he says, I'm going to jump, Japs, they will kill you. You forgot. What did they do? Pearl Harbor. So there is conflict with his narrator and father, narrator and mother. Right? Then character versus character. You decide which two people have. For example, son and father have conflict. Character versus nature. I haven't read the whole novel. If you have read the whole novel, decide. Here in nature means he is going somewhere. He may have landslide. He may have flood. He may have fire. Natural forces creating problem. Character versus society. One person fights with the society. Right? In this story, I see this kind of conflict mostly, and also this one. Right? Okay. Climax. As I said, story begins normally, then we have conflict, then we have complication, then we may have conflict, then we have complication, then we have the crisis, or this is called climax. When we have crisis, right? Crisis is that point in the story where the hero has the most difficult time. A murder may be a crisis. Whole family is murdered, for example. And also, as I told you earlier, after crisis climax, you have reversal. Situation changes, as it says, conflict is resolved, right? Okay. Main character receives a new information. For example, this narrator has a dream. Main character accepts this information. This narrator takes his dream as goal of his life. Main character acts on this information. This narrator acts to achieve his dream. He goes around the world to Japan. Has a dream, follows the dream, goes to Japan, makes a choice to go to Japan. That will determine his life. Following action, resolution begins. He is in Japan, in Onitsuka factory, taking part in conference. He is well received. He places his first order for $50 for shoes. Events and complications start to fall, and he gradually establishes his Blue Ribbon Company. And later on, in other chapters which are not in our course, if you read, you will see more action. Read it. Okay. So following action, solution, right? Things get sorted out. Okay. That is called, there is a word, technical word, denouement. Denouement means resolution, solution of problems. Okay, setting, I won't talk, I've talked about it. Place, I've talked about it, right? Time, I've talked about it. Weather conditions, for example, it's early morning, calm, quiet, peaceful, cold. Social conditions, daily life, there is no one outside, it's peaceful, right? There is not much fighting also in the story. His friend and he going on. There is some activity in Hawaii, Honolulu, where they work in a bar, they see girls and they see people. Then mood or atmosphere, what feeling is created at the beginning of the story. So I see calm, quiet, serene atmosphere. There is not much activity. Character, there are two meanings of character. Person, okay. By character you can understand people, right? And for example, narrator. And when you talk about people, how are they dressed? Go for the physical appearance. Then another look for mental habit. Then look for the hero. The narrator is the hero in this story. Antagonist, I don't see a very strong antagonist in the story. At one point, his father slightly disagrees, but then he okays. His friend doesn't agree to go to Japan. He leaves him. In Japanese Onitsuka company, he has whole people and he is at the head, and he has this problem. They think he has a company. He has no company. They don't know. And they think, the first question they ask is, what's your company name? How many pairs of shoes are you ordering? He didn't expect that he will ask him, what's your company name? And all of a sudden, out of blue, he imagines, he says, my company name is the Blue Ribbon Company. He doesn't have a company. When he says, my company is Blue Ribbon, he does not have a company. But look, at one point he says that life is game. And what is game? Game is, in athlete, you run, here is a ribbon where your race ends, 100-meter race. And if you can hit the ribbon in 5 seconds, you win. If you take 6 seconds, you lose. So that 1 second difference is where you win or lose. That moment in life, that moment in game, that moment in race, when winning or losing is decided. He says that point is very important. And I want to live in that point, that moment when you don't know what may happen. And in the meeting, in the conference room, he is placed here. All Japanese people are here. He is here. And they ask him, what's your company name? And within seconds he says, my company name is Blue Ribbon. Blue Ribbon was the ribbon that was given to him as an honor for his performance. Right? And he names his company with that. And then you have the whole story of the struggle for logo, all that. Not in this in our course. Okay. Then so I said, look for physical appearance, right? Thinking, feeling, dream. What others say about him? Okay, for example, if you see narrators and his father's relationship, you will see that his father was a strict guy, because the narrator does not have courage to talk to him. He says, I must go in the evening when his dad is watching television, otherwise he'll be angry. And during commercial break, he reveals his plan. Right? So you can easily see that his father seems to be a kind of rigid, strict kind of guy. They are not very friendly. So Round is a character who changes over time, develops, becomes mature, more intelligent. That is Round. Things which are round, they move easily. A ball, football moves easily, right? And Flat is a character who doesn't develop. In the first page, he was like that. In the last page, he's like that. It doesn't change. Unchanging characters whose attitude, thinking, life, nothing changes. They are same throughout the story. Okay. Now, point of view. By point of view, mean who is telling us a story. So you will see that the narrator in this story begins with I. There is an I telling his story. So this is first person point of view, and I is singular, so this is singular narrator. And what difference does it make in first, second, third person? When you have an I telling a story, so you will see that this I tells more about self. There is more self-revealing. The narrator tells about himself. And this, you will see that this I makes observation about others. And interesting thing is that this I is not only a narrator, he is also a character. So the problem is, this I may be cheating us. How? By not telling everything about the people in the story. For example, if this I does not like his father, he will present his father in negative light to you. And the problem is that we depend completely on this I to know everything in the story. Imagine this I was not a character. Then he might tell more things about people. But because the I is himself a character, he has this conflict of interest. Right? So this I can be reliable. A narrator is reliable if you feel the person is telling things honestly. If you feel that a storyteller is not hiding anything, he is a reliable narrator. Imagine in one scene, you see the narrator cheating his girlfriend. Imagine in a story there is a scene where the narrator is cheating his girlfriend. Now you see that if this guy can cheat his girlfriend, how can I trust him for the story he's telling me? Maybe he's hiding something. Such narrator is called unreliable. So narrators can be reliable and unreliable. A reliable narrator is one who you believe is honest in his storytelling. An unreliable narrator is one who you believe is not honest in his storytelling. Okay? Then a narrator can be also seen or unseen. That is called omnipresent. An omnipresent narrator is not here. You read a story and you don't exactly know who is telling you the story. You don't exactly know who is telling you the story. And you see that the story says a lot of things about every character. That means the narrator is present everywhere like a god. The narrator can see everything, anybody. They can enter anyone's mind. Normally, third person narrations are like that. He, that begins with he. When I say, suppose this story began with I, right? See the first page, it begins with I. Just imagine, read like this. It says, I was up before the others. Read out the story. He was up before the others. If you rewrite, he was up before the... Now, what is the difference between I was up and he was up? When you say I was up, the character himself is speaking to you. When you say he was up, somebody is talking about somebody. He was up before others. So in the second example, somebody is talking about somebody. Now you know this somebody who is waking up, but you don't know who is this somebody talking to you. That is called omnipresent narration. Omnipresent everywhere. A very powerful narrator, okay? Third person, okay. You read yourself at home. I would explain these things line by line here. Okay. So sometimes narrators can be innocent, naive. For example, a child may be telling a story to you. For example, read a story, a House on the Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. House on the Mango Street is a story narrated by a teenager girl who is growing. And it's a wonderful story to know how young people tell a story. Very innocent girl, right? Stream of consciousness is... Do you know about this thing? Have you heard about Virginia Woolf? Have you heard? No? Virginia Woolf has written a novel, many. One of them is To the Lighthouse. What is the novel? To the Lighthouse. In the opening of the story, there is a 12-year-old child, and the child wants to go to the lighthouse for many weeks. He says, Daddy, take me there, take us there. And Daddy promises and never takes. Again, Daddy has said that coming Saturday, we'll go to the lighthouse. So the child is having newspaper clippings, pictures to present to the lighthouse person. And Daddy comes outside, and the child sees him. And then the child imagines. What does he imagine? If Daddy does not take me to lighthouse this week also, I will take an axe and kill him. He imagines. And there are 2-3 pages imagination by the child, how he will kill his daddy. So stream of consciousness is a kind of novel where actions take place in the mind of the characters. Where? And the story goes non-stop. There is a story by Garcia Marquez. Have you heard about Garcia Marquez, Spanish writer? No? Oh, I guess I'm telling it too much to you, right? He wrote a story, I forgot the story, Voyage of the Gossip, yes. Voyage of the Gossip, Voyage of the Ghostship. It is a 5-page story without a full stop. 5-page story without a full stop. It's a single sentence, 5-page sentence. Right? Okay, leave that. You forget if it's difficult for you. Okay. Now theme. Now talk about the theme of this. So, in this novel, the novel begins with dawn, which represents beginning. Beginning of what? Beginning of life. Beginning of life. So the theme of this novel, I guess you can disagree, is success in life and how to achieve it. The theme of this story is struggle. The theme of this story is crazy idea. The theme of this story is purpose in life. The theme of this story is meaning in life. For example, if you see this page where he says that, right in the beginning he says, yes, fourth page. He says, I was searching for something else, something more. I wanted my life to be meaningful. I wanted my life to be purposeful. I wanted my life to be creative. I wanted my life to be important, different. A little bit at 5 words. So he wanted his life to be meaningful, purposeful, creative, important, different. And this story tells how you can make your life meaningful. You can make your life meaningful by getting a dream early in your life. If you don't have a dream, you are dead. No dream, dead. If you don't have dream, till now you are in BBIS, you are dead. So what's your dream? What's your crazy idea that does not let you sleep at night? My boyfriend, sir. My girlfriend, sir. Divakar, sir. My boyfriend is my crazy idea. He doesn't let me sleep. No. That's not what makes your life successful. No. No, never. So ask yourself, what's the crazy idea? This evening go home, sit before the mirror, close your eyes, take a pen, take a copy, take a notebook and ask yourself, what's the crazy idea that does not let me sleep? Ask yourself, how can I leave a mark on the world? Ask yourself, how I can leave a mark on the world? Right? That's the theme. What is the theme? You must leave a mark on the world. You are gone. And people read about you. Phil Knight is gone. We are reading about him. Because he left a mark on the world by setting up a company, Nike. So what company are you setting? Kitchen? Cooking? Don't know. Okay? Theme. Then, okay, you read it? You read it, I won't go in detail. Here is a graph. Hello. They have beautifully given you a template for you. You can follow that. Say climax, plot, title, author, rising action, falling action, conflict. What do you do? Hello. You print it, fill it and submit. Print it, fill it and submit me. Print it, do the exercise and submit me. Read this. Okay? Like your name, write your name, date, period. Read this and fill this diagram and submit me. This is assignment. This is the assignment. Fill the diagram and submit me. If you can do this, you understand the story. Now we have second unit, a poem by Charles Bukowski, and we'll discuss this in coming class. If you find time, read it. The Laughing Heart. In coming class, we'll read, no, not Laughing Heart. We have second story. What is the second story? Steve Jobs. So we will talk Steve Jobs in coming class. Thank you. What class do you have now? Okay.